Thank you very much. It's finally here, it's finally here. Oh, Kia's left her toys on the floor. Not now, Keely. Yes! Today is the release of Monster Hunter Rise, and I've worked out I've been playing the Monster Hunter series for probably about 15 years now, which is pretty much half my life. My very first game being Monster Hunter Freedom on the PSP, and since then I've pre-ordered every available title of the series, even going as far to import versions from Japan when it was only available in Asia. So I've been super excited for Monster Hunter Rise, and I pre-ordered as soon as it was available to do so, but something became clear to me this year, and I guess I should have seen it coming. I might be getting a bit too old for gaming, and before I'm berated in the comments, hear me out, because as crazy as it sounds, with context you might be able to understand where I'm coming from and the reason behind this video. This year I'm turning 30, and that has become very apparent. With age comes responsibilities. I have a full-time job, a partner, an adopted dog called Kia. I now consciously have to look after my body, a house to look after, a mortgage to pay, and I even spent my last weekend gardening of all things. With that being said, I have very little time for video games, and Monster Hunter is pretty much the only game I'll buy on release date these days. So despite the obvious reason that I haven't changed mentally for the last 15 years, I thought I'd make a video to why I hold this game so dear to my heart. When I was young, I was lucky enough to have 5 other consistent Monster Hunter players living in the same street as me, a literal stone throw away, and at least another half a dozen hunters dotted around the village that I lived in, which made it very easy to hunt with a full party. And I know that might sound a bit of a moot point these days, but the PSP only had local play, meaning you had to be in the vicinity to do any type of Monster Hunter local co-op. The internet was a thing. There were some clever hacks that allowed you to play online together, but the setup was more hassle than just knocking on your neighbour's door. The lack of an online community back then made it a very different experience to what I imagine new players go through today. That being said, there were no video guides or companion applications that gave you all the information that you need for the most efficient hunt. There were options to use sites such as Game FAQ for tips on how to beat certain monsters and locations of hard to find items, but that was always the last point of call. No. The way it worked is you'd attempt to hunt and you would fail. You'd learn collectively until you improve your tactics and your armour well enough to beat the stupid Gypsaros, only to be faced with tougher and tougher challenges, and that's always been the core gameplay loop of Monster Hunter. I guess on pen and paper that might sound a little bit boring, but the way Capcom execute this seemingly basic mechanic of fighting a monster, getting material to build an arsenal to fight the next stronger monster, is probably one of the most engaging gaming feedback loops of any game. And each iteration of the game added new elements of a challenge, a different way to play, be it underwater monsters, introducing aerial moves, the clutch claw.
Clutch claw!
It's now 2021, and I'm the last person of the original 6 people that I grew up with playing Monster Hunter that's actually buying Monster Hunter Rise. Each of them have their own valid reasons, be it a lack of time, they can't afford to purchase a new console, and we can no longer arrange the local play due to distance, which all boils down to getting older. Which is a real shame, as the years go by, there's less and less people I know that are actually purchasing the game.
Sure, you might craft your fiercest weapons. Build your toughest armor.
Through college, I had one friend that suffered from social anxiety, and he wasn't a fan of playing in big groups, so we played Monster Hunter as a duo. Back in them days, going from a squad of 4 people that could defeat almost anything with sheer brute force, to a duo required a little bit more coordination and skill.
Hunt alone. And you...
I ended up buying a PlayStation Vita as part of a deal with another friend, so he would buy a Nintendo 3DS, and we played Monster Hunter together like once, which is probably more than I used my Vita. In 2017, unfortunately one of my close friends suddenly passed away unexpectedly, and we'd been playing Generations on the 3DS most weekends, and I actually couldn't continue the game after that. If you go in the offline gathering hall, his character always waves at me enthusiastically, which was almost an embodiment of his own personality, and I never actually touched that game again. More recently, I won a bet with a friend that he couldn't do the Witcher DLC on Monster Hunter.
So the deal is, if I manage to beat this monster on my first try without dying, you owe me a meal anywhere.
Anyway.
If I fail, which I will, I owe you a meal at Spoons like the one we just had.
Yes, like the one we just had.
£7 or
Yes,
it'll come to.
£7 or maybe an extra couple of quid if I go for a cider.
Please, True, choose your friendships carefully.
What the heck's going on? Oh, for goodness sake! I deliberately made a point of looking at the floor and making sure there was no weird stick things coming out there.
I used to be good at persuading people to buy video games back in the day. Keely, you know you love me, and you do anything to make me happy. Would you fancy buying a Nintendo Switch so you can play Monster Hunter with me?
Well, what makes you think I love you that much, eh?
Rachel! Can you buy Monster Hunter? What are you doing on your roller skates?
No, go away.
Oh. Not so much now.
Let me guess, I've got to eat a steak now, haven't I?
Yeah. 5 seconds. Dave, you're very close. Where are we going? Are we going Weatherspoons? Or are we? Or does that void it?
It voids it.
Right now, I know one other person that I used to play with that's going to buy Monster Hunter Rise, which makes me sad. And I've always struggled to play with randomness online. It always felt luck of the draw. If you got someone that just didn't know what they were doing, or potentially the other end of the spectrum, just when they're so good, they carry you through the quest and it's no longer a challenge. PS4, next to nobody used the microphone function, so it really didn't feel like a shared experience. And I've never really reached out to any online community to meet people who would be up for sort of collaborating and playing together. So maybe leave your friend code below in the comments and I'll be happy to join you for some hunts. Thanks for watching the video.